Now, the federal government under the Olusegun Obasanjo administration in 2006 conceived the standard gauge modernization project for the country in a bid to achieve a holistic development in the transportation system. But 14 years down the line, that project is yet to be completed, with subsequent governments reviewing contract agreements due to paucity of funds. Among these railway projects connecting the 6 geopolitical zones is the Abuja-Kaduna Rail Line project, which commenced full commercial operation in July 2016. Well, I'm being joined now by the Managing Director of the Nigerian Railway Corporation, Fides Ohiria, to discuss the issues affecting the economic viability of all the rail projects in the country. And he's right here with us in the studio. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program.
Good morning, Nigeria. Welcome to December.
Well, welcome to December. This is the last month of the year 2020. Now, let's begin with you giving us details of the entire railway projects being embarked on by the federal government and the level of progress so far.
As you rightly said, the former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, commissioned and gave out a contract for the Lagos to Kano standard gauge line, but it could not start. And when Yaradua came in, it resulted to segmentation and started looking for funds because there was not enough funds to finance the contract. And they took up from Abuja to Kaduna, a 186-kilometer length of track. They started, and by the time the present government came in 2016, they ensured that it's completed. Rolling stock brought in and commenced operation in July 2016. So far, so good. And while doing that, in 2017 or thereabouts, the Lagos to Ibadan construction idea came in for that segment, and it started. And right now, as we speak, the track from the Ebutimeta Junction to Moniya in Ibadan, double line, completed. The portion which was later added when the government came in, because they are insisting that the policy is that all rail line must hit the seaport or the dry port so that you avoid double handling. So they are promising that middle of January, we should be able to get into the port and be able to play in part on the congestion of the upper side of Lagos. We are also hoping to start a partial commercial operation next Monday, 7th of December, so that Nigerians can benefit and save life during that December rush. So we are hoping to start from Ibadan in the morning, 7 a.m. to Lagos, and at 4 p.m. to Ibadan. And by the time we commission in January, we are going to have 16 return trips between Lagos and Ibadan, and at the same time assist in moving containers from the port to Ibadan to Abeokuta. But while we start on Monday, we tend to stop at Abeokuta and Lagos because the stations are still to be completed. And they are promising us that 6 of the stations will be completed by the end of January. That's the contractor, while the mega stations will be completed in February. So we are not accepting that. We are still putting pressure. The minister is coming back on the 19th again to ensure that, see what they can do to ensure that it's completed. While we are doing this, the reconstruction and realignment of the Port Harcourt to Maiduguri has been signed, $3.2 billion contract, and it will be extended to Owerri. There's no track in Owerri presently, and also we have what they call the rail. The rail is going to be an industrial park somewhere in Port Harcourt, and will be connected to Bonny. But while in the north, Damaturu and all those state capitals will be linked to the track. And from Kamfanchan to Kaduna, where we have the junction, there is a place called Rigachuku. We are going to have the transplant yard, a big factory, where the narrow gauge wagons can be moved to standard gauge and standard gauge moved to narrow gauge. Why are we doing that? Because to do a standard gauge, the contract awarded is about $13 billion from Port Harcourt to Maduguri, which is going to take a lot of time because of funding at the time we are now. In order not to leave that as is of Nigeria, not to enjoy the rail service, the government looked backward and said, okay, what will it take to upgrade, remove the curves, reduce the gradient, so that instead of running 30 kilometer, 40 kilometer, you can at least upgrade to 80 kilometer per hour. And we came up about this, and the Chinese company is ready to come in and do it and operate it as a means of misconcession.
Right.
So that they can recover the money.
Yes, talking about money now, funding is a key issue here. You've talked about these projects and they're quite huge, you know. So where are we looking to source for funds to actually complete all of these projects?
Oh, we are looking everywhere. You see, what is important is that Nigerians should accept, are these infrastructure necessary? Do we have it now? Do we need to postpone it to another day? Personally, I would want to have it and enjoy the service of a good rail infrastructure in Nigeria. And when you do that, the next government or the next generation will not be thinking of that. They will be thinking of something else. Whereas you get the benefit of having good rail, your road will last longer. And so if we can get the fund source, either Europe, America, or China, Hong Kong, anywhere, I think it's better. As far as we know, we are not shooting ourselves, and we are not giving us our birthright. So the economic experts will look at it and ensure we are getting value for money, and what we are doing, that we are not selling our soul or spirit. And that's what is, for me, as a Nigerian, that's important. We need the infrastructure right now. Yeah. So, but you see, in developed country, you say people give out money when they are not at work because they have the basic infrastructure in place that are running. But in a developing country where you don't have it, you are still struggling to have it.
I want to talk more about the issue of funding now. Do we actually, is there like a structure now as to where exactly these funds will be coming from, or we're still drawing up the plans on how these funds will come up? Are we taking loans, for instance?
Yeah, the best option now is to seek for loan, which, like when you take a project and it's approved, and I say, okay, Minister of Finance, how do you fund it? They said that you get the Nigerian economy to fund it, or you borrow. So they weigh the option. Are you getting me? So the government is quite desirous to have the infrastructure in place. If the money was there, I don't think we'll be looking to borrow. Because I know this money, if I have 100,000 in my pocket, whether I like it or not, I will not go back home with it by the time I leave office. Because you have different people coming for it. So also it affects the country. There are many people sourcing for this money, whether for basic amenities, whether for leisure. I think right now the government is concentrating on infrastructure, which is the amenities, which is better for, because if they are in place, leisure will definitely come. So I think the best option we have now to see a better way of getting a friendly country to give us loan without a cutthroat conditionality. So I think that is the way to go for now.
Now, let's talk about when, of course, these projects are completed now. What would be the cost implications? That's for the passengers. How affordable will these train services be?
It's going to be affordable, because before we fix any price in the rail, the law, IS and MD cannot just fix the price. You have to go through the board, go through the ministry, and eventually the president will approve. And the president will have, like last time we want to increase Abuja, we were saying we have a coach that takes only 24 people. And as a rail, we said, okay, we will divide a rail that carries 68 people, for instance, should be able to also generate the 24-seater, should also earn that amount, that the 68-seater. So that's how we worked it out. But the president, in his grace, said, no, it's too much. We have to come down. So for that, it's 6,000, Abuja, Kaduna. And the same thing will be applicable Lagos, Ibadan. Maybe 6,000, 7,500. I think that's the working they are doing right now. And there is no way we can price the road. We should be lower than the road because the government also play a part in providing the infrastructure, or like the road that is fully private. We are providing service, and Nigeria has to benefit from it.
Oh.
So that is the way I want to put it. The price structure for the fare is quite going to be, the people will like it.
All right, we'll keep our fingers crossed. Now, regarding the suspension of rail services at the Apapa port, of course, you touched a little about it now, but let's just dwell more. The initial 2-month suspension of the movement of containers has been extended. So when are operations likely to resume then?
So we are hoping that in January we will be able to come back. Why? Because the material needed for moving, what we are having in Apapa now, we are using the same the right of way for the narrow gauge. We have to shift the narrow gauge. We said if you are moving the narrow gauge, it has to be fresh and new. And for us to do that, we have to get the materials. So we have some materials from Port Harcourt that we are now moving down. There was, because of logistics and all those ones, there's a delay in moving the rail and sleepers from Port Harcourt, which had to be used to link the Apapa port. As at yesterday, they have loaded 6 trailers, and we hope once those items arrive, the information and everything has been done, laying track within the next 2 weeks, they will finish. That's what I'm thinking. By January, first week of January, we should be able to start moving from the port.
Now, we haven't had much regarding plans to have cargo rails for movement of products. Are there no plans to actually reduce the heavy dependence on road haulage? We see the number of accidents almost on a daily basis on those roads.
So that's why we're saying you have to have what we call the permanent way, functional and reliable, which we are trying to build now. So we were moving containers before we stopped, and people would attest to that. Right now that we are building, we have to give way. For you to give birth, there should be blood. People put pressure on me. Why can't you manage? No, it's not. For us, we have to give this 2-3 months to give way to reconstruct so that we have better service. If you have a good rail service, the driver flogging trailer from here to Sokoto is not necessary. But they will still make their money. That where the rail ends, they will take it. We don't go to the doorstep of the industry or our customers. And instead of, you see stress of drivers, stress on the road. Rail is designed to move heavy axle to go long distance. So with the standard gauge, we can move 30 containers with 1 train. We can move 30 tankers of fuel on 1 train. And if you deliver that in a day to Kano, there will not be scarcity. In the east, there will not be scarcity. And train service is quite safe, secured. You don't have that problem when a driver goes by the road because he's hungry. He will drain some. It doesn't happen on rail service or your goods missing. If you move, let's say, 30 wagons on a train, you only pursue 1 person. But if you move 30 trailers, you are pursuing 60 people. The driver, the guards, they will get to Ore and say they are puncture tired, exhaust have problem, they have complaint to tell you. So, but on the train, you are only facing 1 person. And you can sleep and be at peace. But when we now deliver, the road, the trailers can take it maybe 100 kilometers, 80 kilometers, all right, only 1,000 kilometers they do now presently. And our roads, you don't need to be maintaining them every year. So that if you input those things to Naira and Kobo, you see the advantage of having the functional rail. As I tell people, if London is not serviced by rail, you don't talk about even car moving, even foot. You cannot move by foot.
So right now, are there actually plans to set all of these in motion?
Yeah. Right as we speak, we have 9 freight locomotives that have already arrived. And what we call shunting, the one that will be in the port, moving up and down, not running. 2 of them has also arrived. We are spending 280 wagons for freight that has been ordered. And part of those wagons, about 60% of them will be assembled in Nigeria, a place called Papalanto, that workshop, wagon workshop. That is how the contract was designed. So that we have locomotive freight wagons to move the freight.
So is there like a time frame which to
No, if not
expect
for
completion?
COVID, at least it should have been on ground now. If not for COVID. As I said, out of the 20 locomotives for freight, 9 are already in the port.
All right, now, earlier on you touched on security, so I'd like to dwell a bit more on that now. Of course, there had been some security concerns about the Abuja to Kaduna rail line, for instance. What is the NRC actually doing to ensure the security of commuters, especially during this period of the Yuletide?
Okay. I don't want to be funny. Every night and morning I pray I should be safe and Nigerians to be safe. I don't pretend to be a security expert, but rail expert, I've never had where a rail has been attacked.
But there were reports of attack
Eh?
on the Abuja-Kaduna rail line some time ago.
You've heard of it. I've never heard of it. You hear, that is rumor, what Trump will call fake news. It has not been established. So if you are referring to recent this thing that a train failed, I apologize personally, and the minister also apologized for that. As a mechanical equipment, I'm an engineer by training and by practice, by education and everything. When you have a failure happening in 5 years, one off, I think we should clap for ourselves. I've been on a train that I missed my flight from Heathrow to central of London, and I was there for 4 hours because you are not allowed to even come down to say you want to take alternative. And when we have that failure last week, you cannot just send another relief. You have to make sure all possible security, because there was another train coming from Rigasa, and we are running a one-track system. The signaling and communication must be ensured that you don't go out to avoid collusion. That one running must be clear before you send another one in. That is the program. But however, I apologize to Nigerians. We will try and work hard to ensure such things that never happen. People say new loco, new this. How did they know it was a new locomotive? New locomotive had problem. We stopped that. We called the manufacturer, and they were rectifying that. We sent our old one, and our old one had issue, which is not supposed to happen. And we still ran the number of trains that was supposed to run that day, a day after, until today. So I think Nigerians should learn to appreciate people that are working hard.
All right, Managing Director of the Nigerian Railway Corporation, Mr. Fides Okere, thank you for coming on the program this morning.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
We'll be talking commodities when we return in just a moment.